Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. I'm a psychological astrologer as well as an analytical hypnotherapist. And I'm so happy today because I am joined again by Jonathan Goldman and this time also Andi Goldman. Hello to you both.
Oh, Anna, hello to you. We are so happy to be here.
Blessings. Good to see you again.
And you know, the last time we were talking about your book, Jonathan, and I said it was edge of the seat reading because I was so excited while I was reading it. And I think I feel the same about this one called The Humming Effect. And it's just the very concept that the sounds that we make could have an impact on our bodies is just awesome to me. So Andi, I'm going to ask you, how did you discover this for yourself?
You know, it was really more of a natural sort of intuitive thing. And my background is as a holistic psychotherapist. And I used a lot of experiential modalities in my practice. And sound is the most experiential therapy I had ever come across. And I could feel the difference in my body immediately, you know, with my own voice, using sound to shift and change my frequency or, you know, put me back in balance. But our voices are so powerful, Anna, and it's so exciting to be able to share this with other people because, like yourself, so many people are not aware of the power of our voice. And when they are open to learning a little bit about it, it's kind of like, aha. It's an aha moment.
You're right. And, you know, just in normal conversation, working with clients. So very often I have clients who are very quietly spoken and their voices are almost inaudible. And as I'm working through in a session with them and we're doing hypnosis and we're regressing into whatever area of life needs to be explored and bringing in the different parameters for healing, at the end of the session, very often their voice has changed. And I ask them, are you aware that your voice is sounding stronger? And they're not. It's something that when I point it out to them, suddenly they go, oh. And so there's something there about voice expressing energy. And what you're talking about is using voice to shift energy.
Yes. And, you know, we're all energy and vibration. I can let you get in here, honey.
That's fine. I'm enjoying this.
Two psychotherapists
right.
And sound healers.
And Andi doesn't talk about it much, but she's been studying astrology for about 45 years, maybe.
You know, it's really, Anna, it's really been my hobby since I was in my 20s. And I love astrology and I've utilized it, I mean, continuously, but more as a hobby and not professionally, but I do know quite a bit. And we've got quite a few intense energies happening right now.
Don't be just. You know, it's lovely to hear that this was something that you intuitively discovered. I love the story in your foreword as well, because that's also about a natural discovery, in a sense, of humming and how important it is. And I just loved that, found that very inspiring. So I think it's time for us to get a little bit more specific and talk about what the health benefits are of humming.
Wait, I got to jump in here first, just to say, how did you get into humming? Because the health benefits are way important, but the question is, why did you get into humming? Why did we get into humming?
Well, and Anna, we really like to share sort of a little bit of background as to what guided us to really write this book, The Humming Effect. And Jonathan, of course, has been in this field for 40 some years. He and I have been working together for almost 30 years, and we have worked with so many different sounds and exercises and chakra balancing with vowel sounds and mantras, and oh my goodness. And
I mean, bottom line was that I remember we were teaching over at the Royal College of Music in England, in London, and we'd come back about a year or so after having taught a large workshop. And we said, well, how many of you are doing these exercises? And 5% of the people might have raised their hands. And we thought, gee, what is it? Because we're just dealing with vowel sounds to resonate the chakras, which are incredibly powerful. Yet at the same time, people weren't doing it. We thought, this is because so many people have such issues with their voice. They're so judgmental about their voice. Blessed be shows like, well, you have Britain's Got Talent or something like that, and we've got American Idol or whatnot, and everybody judges the voice. Oh, are they pitchy? Are they this and that? Including ourselves. So it's like, what's the one sound that everybody can make? That is, you know, babies make it, the elderly make it, everyone makes it, and they're not judgmental. And we went,
we love to share that, Anna. Because
can I interject here? My dog makes that sound.
I love that.
The most hilarious thing, because he does it. He makes that sound when he wants something.
Oh.
It's his, hello, can you look at me? This is what I'd like now, please, sound. So you can see there's something about that sound, because if my dog's making that sound, then there's just, it's easy, isn't it?
It is so, it's easy, and it is something that people, like Jonathan was just saying, that there really isn't self-judgment about humming. We've never heard anyone say, I'm just not a very good hummer. That just isn't in our consciousness. And so, and speaking of consciousness, we do call this conscious humming, because we, very specifically have different exercises and, different ways of actually, consciously humming. But it is a sound that most everyone is familiar with. And that was really the premise of our book, is how can we help the mainstream world out there to open up to knowing how powerful, like we were saying at the beginning, Anna, how powerful our voices really are. And so if we could open up that doorway through humming, which they all can do, maybe that's the way to go.
Well, it seems to be, if you like, an all-inclusive sound that is an entry point for everyone to get into the field of sound healing, because they can experience the power of their own voice, which gets into your question about the therapeutic aspects of sound. But the reason that we like to say that, we said, okay, we are writing really the first professionally published book on humming that's ever been done. And the more we got into it, the really more extraordinary the aspects of the hum, and we'll talk about this later, were. But said, how are people going to take this subject seriously? Said, what if the first chapter was nothing more or less than peer-reviewed scientific and medical information on the physiological benefits of the hum?
And so, Anna, when we are sounding and, doing something as easy, as simple as a conscious humming sound, so many things are happening in our bodies on a physiological level. Our heart rate is lowered. Our respiration is lowered. We have the release of melatonin, which controls our sleep cycles. We have the release of oxytocin, which is the trust hormone. We have the release of a very important molecule, nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is, my goodness, there's so many. Jonathan loves to talk about
nitric oxide has been getting more and more press lately, and we love it because
I thought you were going to say the molecule of the year.
It was actually the molecule of the year back in the 1990s. Science magazine said, "Hey, this is the molecule of the year," and we always visualize this little molecule going up on the stage, going, "Thank you very much for me." You know.
Yeah, I knew Jonathan liked to tell that story, Anna.
But one of the major things about nitric oxide, which is different than nitrous oxide, which is what you get in the dentist's office as laughing gas. This is nitric oxide, different molecular structure, very different effect. It's, first of all, a vasodilator, which means that it literally loosens your circulatory system, allowing the blood and the oxygen, all these different nutrients to flow more readily throughout your body. So it's really good for all sorts of things, like including coronary issues, et cetera. It's just part of it. And also, it is an antiviral agent. So when you hum and you vibrate your nasal cavity, you get the release of 15 times the amount of nitric oxide as is normally generated through what they call nitric oxide breathing. 15 times, taking it to pharmaceutical levels. And I mean, I've known this since I began teaching sound, and I used to joke to doctors that we call the sound sonic Dristan. Dristan was a decongestant that we had some years ago. And then about 15 years ago, something called the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, which produces Nobel Prize winning people, et cetera, did research on the fact that humming can basically release nitric oxide and take care of all sorts of nasty critters, viruses, bacteria in your nasal cavity. That's so important.
And it's certainly something that most people are not aware of, and hopefully they will become more aware of, having, listened to this or, picked up our book or whatever, because it is, right here in our own bodies, we have this capacity to help ourselves to heal. And to me, that's just, it's just incredible information.
It is. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, nitric oxide is something that we produce less of as we age. So it becomes more important that we do exactly this, that we hum and help ourselves to stimulate the production within our bodies. It's also somewhat more pleasant than kale, which is the other way too. I personally like kale, but I know a lot of people don't. And yet it's a wonderful food for the production of nitric oxide. So this
beets too. But you're cracking me up because it's one of the things that we produce less of as we get older. And I'm sitting here cracking up thinking, what don't we produce less of as we get older?
That's so true.
Exactly. And yet here's something that can really help us, because as you say, it's going to, and there was a story where you were talking about someone, I can't remember now who it was, but somebody was producing music or humming. They were humming, and the cells in a petri dish started to produce nitric oxide. So
well, that's actually our friend Dr. John Boyu, who was using tuning forks over the so there's, basically it was sound, and there are two different ways that sound affects us. One is called psychoacoustics.
The other is vibroacoustics. And I'll talk about vibroacoustics in a minute, but just give a brief little description of psychoacoustics.
Psychoacoustics is when the sound goes into your ear, affects your brain, heart rate, respiration, nervous system. Very, very important. Vibroacoustics
is actually when we are putting sound directly into our bodies at a deep cellular level. And what we've discovered is that humming is the most powerful vibroacoustic sound, because we are putting it directly into our bodies through our own voices. And of course, you can, vibroacoustically, there are sound beds and all kinds of different implements that put sound into your body. And that's vibroacoustics. But
this is an example of vibroacoustic, where the tuning fork is going in to hear. If I hear, then that's psychoacoustic.
But humming is such a powerful vibroacoustic sound and way that we can utilize sound in our own bodies. And definitely.
Well, ever since I last spoke with Jonathan, I've been humming and umming.
Oh. Yay!
Preparations as I bless everything as well. And some time ago, I guess maybe a couple of years ago, I decided to have the start to my day as a sacred ritual to help set me up and my family up for the day. And so there were different things that I've been bringing in, and the latest has been the humming, and I love it. I absolutely love the way it makes my body feel. And so it's part of the toolkit that I've created now, and which I keep adding to, it seems. My breakfast rituals are becoming more elaborate by the day, it seems. But the result is that it really helps us start the day in a really happy frame of mind.
It absolutely does, because, when you are humming, it's very, very difficult to feel any kind of resentment or judgment. When you're humming, you begin to feel better. And that's what we were talking about earlier with the different hormones, et cetera, that are released when we are humming. And what I like about it so much too, Anna, is that as a therapist, we become basically our own therapist. When we don't feel good, or we're having a particular issue that, it would be great to go see my therapist now, but I can't because blah, 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 you need an appointment, et cetera. And if one starts to hum, and also putting in the intention, which we do want to talk about, because intention coupled with sound is, really very, very healing. And of course, your wonderful formula, Jonathan. Frequency plus intent.
Frequency plus intent equals healing.
And Jonathan created that formula 40 years ago. And it's more relevant today than ever, because people are really focused on the importance of intention and the intentions that we hold, whether we're sounding, humming, or whatever. Just basically, the intentions are very much affecting how we go about into the world. And like you were saying, your breakfast rituals, it's like setting those intentions for the day and, putting forth those thoughts, and then humming. Whoa, powerful medicine.
It's many years ago. I remember I was in a state of deep meditation. I asked, what is ritual? I wanted whoever I work with. And they said, ritual is setting the field with intent. Think about that for a second. Setting the field with intent. Mm-hmm. I said, I get it now. Okay. So on a level, everything can be ritual if we are conscious. And one of the really big aspects of sound that I really like to focus on is the fields that we create using sacred sound. And humming is a sacred sound. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I just want to initiate that into our psyche as we talk about the fact that it's just not just a it is perhaps the simplest and easiest sound that we can make, but it also well may be the original sound of creation.
Yeah, I like that. I like that very much.
Well, okay, that gets us into for a lot of people into yoga these days, okay? And there's something called the Yoga Sutras by a fellow by the name of Patanjali that was written a few thousand years ago. It's probably the basis of all yoga. And Sutra 1.27, and every major Swami and spiritual master has done their own translation of it. And this one comes from Swami Satchidananda, who was the Woodstock guru. He's the guy who started opened up the entire 500,000+ people chanting together at Woodstock. And it was beautiful. And we have been to his ashram. He's passed on, but his ashram, teaching a few times. And one time I went there and there was his translation of the Yoga Sutras. And I just opened it up and it's Sutra 1.27. And it basically said the original sound of creation was pranava, the humming of prana. They had to give it a name, so they called it Om.
In the beginning, there was the word.
Right, or the hum, the cosmic hum.
Was the word. So this notion of manifestation through sound, I think, is pretty commonplace in the different spiritual traditions. I don't want to say universal because I don't know that is the case, but I come across it again and again in different traditions. So it's a lovely thing, this idea of sound as a means of manifestation. And of course, that immediately brings us back to intention, because you have to have the intention to manifest in the first place. So that's rather a nice time there.
Would you like us to talk about it for a minute?
Yes, please.
Let me ask you a question. You ever hear the word abracadabra?
Oh, yes.
Do you know
about that before? That's wonderful.
That's right. So abracadabra is actually ancient Aramaic, which means that I will make sound as I create, or I will create as I make sound. So, and that just simply is an example of a sacred sound that's been made less effective through making fun of it. So we have to take our sacred sound seriously.
So many things that have popped into my head all at once now. So maybe it might be a good point at which to ask you about the energy behind the different vowel sounds. So what meaning or what intention do we associate with different vowel sounds?
Gosh, there's so many different systems that have many different intentions as you're balancing and aligning your chakras with sacred vowel sounds. And of course, the throat chakra has the intention of opening up, your communication. The solar plexus chakra, is our personal power. The root chakra, we feel grounded. The crown chakra, we're connected to more of our spiritual being. But these are all, different intentions of really focus that we can do. But we have the ability as these thinking human beings that we can put whatever intention we want anywhere we want it. And certainly when we're humming, and that's the thing I wanted to bring in with intention, is that we can focus our hum. Like so for instance, you say you have a headache. Okay. It's like your head is just like pounding. You can close your eyes. You can begin to do some deep breathing and then humming, and imagine or visualize that hum going into that part of your head where the pain is. And it's like that intention of visualizing that sound going into that part of your body. So we can, with our voices, we can actually utilize intention and sound anywhere in our bodies.
Right. And also, if you have something here, you can just as easily close your eyes and feel it vibrating there. You know, one thing I want to say, I know we're going to be playing with conscious humming, but is that we're going to suggest that people do it with us, do it once. But if you really want to get, as you know, an effect out of this, you have to do it as a cumulative aspect all the time, because the more that you do anything, the more adept you become at it having a powerful effect. I want to just jump back for just a second, getting back into the vowels for the chakras, which I think are very, very important. But the question really is, what chakra do you want to resonate with what vowel? Now, in healing sounds, I have a system that I seem to have basically been given in deep meditation, working with a specific sequence of vowel sounds that seems to have a natural resonance with different chakras. The ah sound, for example, which is a sound in all these different traditions. We make it when we feel good. Ah, and I can feel, even as I do that, you know, my hands vibrating because my body is vibrating here. And the word ma, the word pa, the word Tara, the word Buddha, the word Krishna, all these different God and goddess names have the ah sound in them. So you say, well, the ah is a heart sound. Yes, but we love the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And, you know, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the ah sound is the sound of the throat chakra. So, you know, does one nullify the other? No, simply the intentionality has therefore provided, because they can resonate both places or more places. Does this make sense?
It does. And I guess I asked the question because you brought up the word abracadabra. And it made me think about so much of our language being rooted in sacred sound, and it going back to different meanings of the vowels. And that's why I asked the question. You know, you were talking about, well, there's amen. There's so much that if we go through our language, and the etymology of it takes us to ancient languages for whom sound actually meant something, and vowels particularly, the word for God, Yahweh, again, you know, there's those sounds that are there. So that's why I asked the question, because I was wondering whether there was a system that associated certain sounds to certain feelings. And you were, of course, talking about chakras, which is the obvious thing, as a basis for healing, so that when we are humming, we kind of know which vowel to work with for what purpose.
Well, when we're humming, once again, I mean, we can hum the chakras for that matter. We can, you know, put a humming sound and imagine, you know, our solar plexus chakra getting stronger and having inner strength. We can, you know, visualize, we can feel that, you know.
Project color into it, project intentionality. But here's the big do. When we hum, and this is, if you like, we have some protocols. I'm going to call them protocols now, new word. Oh, like protocols for conscious humming. And one of them is that if you hum, you got to keep your lips closed. If you open it, then that's when you create the vowel sounds. But that's not a hum. And in order to hum, you got to, we may have played the game last time where I said hum and then pinch your nose. Do we do that one?
No, we didn't.
Well, all right, right now, let's, and you know, when we actually do the hum thing, we're going to switch to the other thing.
You want me to do that?
No, not quite yet, my dear. But when you try it, and I'm going to ask you to do it now, hum, start the hum, and then go, and that's what's going to happen. But just see for yourself, hum, and then pinch your nose. Make sure your lips are closed.
All right. I don't know if I can do this because I'm laughing now.
Well, laughing is great, great laughter.
But it doesn't exactly go with humming. Okay, let's see if I can focus now instead of laughing. Oh, it just switches it off, doesn't it?
You cannot hum with you pinch your nose.
It does, switches it off.
So therefore, as soon as you open your mouth, you know, obviously the sound is going out, which is what causes the hum to be the most powerful vibroacoustic sound that actually causes the most resonance in the physical body in terms of the cells, molecules, even our DNA. That's why you can produce nitric oxide.
And you know, keeping your lips closed is really, I like the protocols for conscious humming, because that, you know, people don't know that necessarily. And then they begin to play around with it, and you're not humming if your mouth is open. So that's something that is so important. And later in our podcast, we're going to guide our listeners through a series of having them experience, you know, an exercise with humming. But before we do that, we need to kind of set the field of how to actually hum.
Right. I'm just, before I forget, because I think it's chapter 7 or chapter 8 in the humming effect, a chapter called the humming hypothesis. And that is the fact that it's possible, we believe it, to actually create new neural synaptic connections in your brain as you hum and vibrate and project the sound up here. And I was just thinking, as we were talking about nitric oxide and all that stuff, they found, believe it or not, that there are benefits for people suffering from Alzheimer's who take Viagra. And what does Viagra do? Viagra projects and creates nitric oxide. What is happening if you're resonating your brain with your own sounds? The same thing that's happening, you know, in your nose or whatever. Whenever your cellular structure is being vibrated, as Dr. John Boyu showed, you get the release of nitric oxide. So it could well be an incredible tool also for people who are getting older and a little worried about X, Y, or Z. Hum a little bit, project it into their head as a therapeutic modality.
Well, we know that music has a very powerful effect in helping people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We know, for instance, that Parkinson's patients who dance, it helps them with the shaking, but also it helps them where they have that awful effect of the freezing, where they lose the ability to get their body to move. So it seems to help them with that. So there is music and sound is huge. And you talking about the possibility that new neural pathways are being opened, I think is very, very likely.
Well, Anna, some years ago, my sweet beloved mother, who's no longer with us, she had a stroke, and it was, she was, it affected her deeply, and her speech was affected, and the different things that happened with a stroke. And we had her humming, because she could do that. And, you know, imagining that hum going into the part of the brain, you know, we found out from the doctor where the stroke was and all of that. And we had her hum. And of course, you know, she, you know, was a really good sport about it, but didn't quite go, why am I humming? But we just said, you know, mother, just hum and imagine that hum going to that part of your brain. And she did that for several days, Anna, and we noticed that her speech began to improve, and we noticed that her movements began to improve. So that's just purely anecdotal, obviously. But it was our experience, you know, working with humming and working with someone who had a stroke.
And we've had a lot of other actually anecdotal stories that emulate that, because it's real.
Anecdotal stories are important because they are about our everyday experience, and they are not to be dismissed. Because to do that would be to invalidate people's experience, and that is not what we are about. So I think it's very important that we talk about our experiences. And in any case, the evidence for the ability to recover from strokes is actually that it's far better than we had previously thought, and that the brain seems to be able to find ways to reroute the messaging that has been lost due to the damage caused by the stroke. So it's not necessarily, in my understanding, that the part affected by the stroke suddenly is recovering. It's that the brain is adapting and
creating
ways to actually compensate. So if we're talking about nitric oxide being an important function or an important factor in healing, then and we know that its humming helps with that, of course it makes sense to me that your mother would have had some improvement, of course.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that we do know about sound as well is that it will go to where it needs to go in the body. It has that sort of innate knowing of where to go. And we've seen that happen when we put sound into, you know, maybe our hand and we feel it in our foot as a, you know, way out example, but sound will go where it needs to go in the body.
I have a bit of an odd question, as in it's a bit left field, but you know, recently I had the flu, and one of the things that it did was it made me hypersensitive to absolutely everything, and I had a kind of tinnitus as well with it. So there was the desire for humming was zero because I had this hypersensitivity to all sound. And of course, my energy was very low, etc. But in a situation like that, what can we do where can we get started? Because it's like we've gone well below a base level, and you know, sound is a horrible thing now. What can we do?
Okay, Anna. This is a subject that's near and dear to me. And I want to try to get you first to reframe it. Because the tinnitus right now seems to be your adversary. You don't like it. Suppose I was to suggest to you that in certain traditions, a ringing sound is actually a vehicle, a way that we can transcend consciousness and go to higher planes of reality. I'm not making this up. This is called Shabd Yoga. And I'm telling you that you can transform this. I always say, make the sound your ally as opposed to your adversary. You can, it's a really cool thing to do. Close your eyes, listen to the sound, And rather than go, oh God, I hate it, tap into it and see if you can travel on the sound. You
I
can
like
you can literally shift your entire perception of it. And also, you might also find it becomes a whole lot less annoying. That's step one.
I like that because obviously we know that sound has been used for a long time to shift consciousness and to be able to do shamanic journeying, etc. So this has been a long time the case. I think I like that because I have to say that when I had the flu, I was only half here anyway. It was just, I was not present. I wasn't here. My head was so full of cotton wool that I just wasn't quite here anyway. So I like that. I like that idea of using the sound in my head as a kind of magic carpet to take me somewhere else, because heaven knows I was halfway there already.
As an inner listening experience. Technically, the term is SHABD, shabd. It's a Sanskrit term that means the audible sound current. Literally, that you can listen and tap in. It's a real thing. There are a number of very deep, profound spiritual groups that utilize that. And so once again, you may be on your, spirit may have been, if you like, guiding you to yet another technique that you can use for higher consciousness.
It's also made me think about how initiation in many cultures often involves illness. It's that illness is seen as a point of initiation into being able to journey into other worlds, shall we say. Mm-hmm. So it's made me think about that. So that's very interesting, Jonathan. Thank you very much. I was looking for what can I do to get myself humming and overcoming the sensitivity. And you were saying, no, but you've already got the sound in there. Use it. I like that.
Literally, strangely enough, in meditation this morning, I was thinking about a book that I recently read, tried to contact the author, didn't get him because I wanted to get him on a radio show of mine, but the book is about 20 years old, so it may no longer be on the planet, but it's called The Ringing Sound. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what I was just talking about, using these sounds for higher consciousness.
So something you said, Andi, that I'd like to go back to, and you were talking about how you said so many things now, and I'm just trying to think which one was it that I wanted, but you did say that sound knows where to go. It just goes everywhere. And I don't know whether you mentioned water, but I thought of water.
Yes.
Because I know exactly what water does. And there was a question I wanted to ask you, because in your book, you describe how sound affects water. So here's my question, because I find this very exciting. What can we do, or can we do anything using sound to help the pollution of water?
Absolutely. The answer to that is yes. And the answer to that is, as I'm sure you're familiar with Masaru Emoto's work with sound and, crystals and freezing them and then, photographing them under a dark field microscope. When he put the intention of love and play different music that was healing music, the water changed. The water crystals became like beautiful snowflakes. And when he put in intentions that were negative, the water crystals became like mud. So what our intention is when we are working with water, I have to tell you this quick little story, because to this day, when I drink a glass of water, which I do every morning, I say, thank you to the water. I say, thank you for nourishing my body, dear water. And we were in Australia, I think it was 2012, doing a conference there. And we met one of the 13 indigenous grandmothers, Grandma Aggie. And she did a whole thing on water. And she said she never walks past a stream or a body of water that she doesn't say, thank you. So I believe, Jonathan and I both believe, that our consciousness can indeed be emitted onto the water and help to heal.
So I'll tell you why this has been on my mind. And that is because of what's happened in Ohio with that awful chemical burn, controlled though it supposedly was, and the damage that it's done to the water, the earth, and the air, which is killing still animals all around. And I can just imagine the damage to plant life, etc. And it hurts to think about that and not be able to do anything about it. So maybe what we need is an organized hum online with the intention of bringing healing to that river. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Well, I think it would certainly be a very important thing to do. And even today, here in our podcast, we wanted to kind of demonstrate conscious humming and the different protocols around it. We could put the intention of humming that we're going to do and send it out to the earth in Ohio and to the waters and to, the animals, all of that is happening on a destructive level right now, and really visualize our hum going in and healing.
Just a few weeks ago, we had an event called World Sound Healing Day, which had tens of thousands of people throughout the planet making sounds for healing the earth, healing the water, raising our consciousness. And one of the things that Andy said to me, we should do a monthly event, because we have a website that very few people know about called Temple of Sacred Sound. And at Temple of Sacred Sound, there are 4 different toning chambers: an Om, an Ah, a Hum, and a divine name, a Yahweh sound. And it's basically designed for people to go on and project consciousness onto the planet. So it's already, if you like, pre-arranged thing. And she said to me, why don't we do a once a month event? We haven't gotten that together because we're working, doing so many things. So we're going to encourage you to assist. And if we can assist you in doing that, because it's so important.
But people right now can go to templeofsacredsound.com.org, either one, and go into one of the chambers and set the intention of sending healing to Ohio. And I think that we can absolutely do that. So,
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get started.
But, Anna, for your listeners today, for those who are our listeners today,
viewers,
our viewers, right. It's like being able to do a conscious hum. We always like to leave our listeners with an actual experience so that they themselves go, oh yeah, now I know what those folks were talking about. It really does make a difference in how I feel. It really does help me feel more balanced and more aligned, etc. And so I don't know, should we do
totally, but let's go through a couple more of the protocols.
Yeah.
No, we got the term protocol. Okay, I like that. We actually do a once a month sound satsang, and we've been doing it now for
not bad,
9 or 10 months actually, and we're finally going to be doing one on, we're calling it conscious humming.
The next one
next one, which is going to be on the spring equinox too. But now we can say, and these are the protocols. But so the first one, as we said, is you got to keep your lips closed. Second one is, do you want to do it in a tone that is comfortable for you? And most of the time, a lot of people in the sound healing now are looking for their sound, their frequency or whatnot. You know, most of the time, it's simply your conversational voice. If you can hear when here's my voice, and I'm go, it's about the same range. I'm not going, or something like that. It's, you know, that was uncomfortable. It just jammed my throat, and it was not my, So do it in a comfortable sound that is really about the range of the conversational voice. As anyone said, take a nice deep breath. And lastly,
we want to be in silence. Take time after you have made this, you know, deep vibroacoustic, had this experience. Let it make the shifts and changes. That happens when we are in silence. And silence is something that is quite difficult for many people. And so we encourage, you know, like we'll do a series of 3 hums, and just to give people that their own experience. But afterwards, we will be in silence for a few moments, you know, obviously because it's a podcast and etc. You know, we won't be in silence
is not
as long as we, you know, would normally if we were at, you know, doing our own practice. But anyway, so basically the protocols are keep your lips closed, take a nice deep diaphragmatic breath. We're going to breathe, take that belly breath on the in breath, and then on the out breath, that is when you hum. So you've got lips, you've got your deep breath, you've got your lips closed, you're in a comfort zone of your voice. You're not pushing or stretching, or you're just comfortable in the tone that you're making. And you can set whatever intention you want.
I'm going to suggest that when we do this for the first time, you simply become aware of the vibrations of the sound, because intention is encoding a little bit too much from my perspective for the first time that you're making a sound. Just feel the sound. What's it doing to your body? And really, so the first thing you want to do is check yourself out even before you start doing some deep breaths. Where are you? And then check yourself out after you've done these 3 hums. You may feel very different. Anything else, my dear?
And we'll just, you know, be in silence for a few moments.
And we also, for those of you who ever use Zoom, there's a fabulous thing that we're going to basically click on now, which is called original sound.
Get over there.
Yeah, I got it, baby. I can do this.
Oh, okay.
You know, what the heck happened? Oh, did this really? Telling she. Hi, don't mind me. Here we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. We lost you for a moment.
And now, so this way we're going to be able to hum without the wonderful noise suppression of Zoom clipping it after 4 seconds. It's going to make all the difference in the world. So we're just going to do 3 hums. My dear, shall we be?
Yes. So what we would like to invite everyone to do is close their eyes and, you know, check yourself out. See how you're feeling right now. And begin to take some nice deep breaths. Let's take a couple of breaths just to start. Just to let go of anything that is not serving us in this moment. Taking that breath and releasing the breath with a sigh. Just to kind of get in the space of being able to be comfortable when we hum. Okay, so we'll start now a series of 3 hums. We'll take a nice deep breath, and on the out breath, the exhale, that's when we'll hum. So breathing in and hum. Taking a nice deep breath and hum. for a few moments, we'll be in silence.
Checking yourself out. Do you feel any difference?
I always like to say it is in the silence that we really begin to listen within.
Silence is the yin to the yang of the sound. I just want to suggest that for myself. I feel just a little more chill, a little more blissed out. If I'd done this, if we had done this all some more, it would be more even powerful, but I could feel a difference. How about you?
Yes. And how did you feel? Or how do you feel right now?
Well, because of the recording, I was kind of holding back a little bit because I didn't know whether it was going to create an echo or do something weird with the sound. So I was holding back a little bit. But even so, it's that buzzy feeling through the body that I absolutely love. And I really love what Jonathan just said about silence being the yin to the yang, because I think silence is so important to me. And the reason it is so important to me is because I do so much talking and so much listening in terms of my work, and my brain is constantly working. So I really value just being quiet, not having anything on in the background a lot. So it's a very nice thing. And I hadn't thought of it in that way. But yes, silence is the yin to yang. I like that very, very much.
Silence is golden. One of our pillars of sound,
right,
actually.
We have actually 4 pillars of sound healing. Everything is vibration. We're all unique vibratory beings. Intention is powerful and silence is golden. So with all those in mind, and Andi pointed out that the word listen and the word silent are anagrams.
So if you think about that, it really is quite telling that they have the same exact letters. And yeah.
Well,
but anyway, yeah, I was just going to say, hopefully, this short, brief experience of humming could give our listeners their own experience, because honestly, what we really want is for people to be self-empowered and for people to become really their own therapist. And they can do that through the simple use of sound, humming, intention. They can shift and change their frequency.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to remind everyone, Jonathan was, or you talked about silence being golden. Something else that's golden, here it is, the humming effect. And it's a sound healing for health and happiness. I'm absolutely hooked. I love it. And I'm going to put a link to this in the description box, along with the link to Jonathan's book, Sound Healing, and links to the previous interview that I did with Jonathan, as well as your wonderful website. And I would add also that the beauty of this book is that you also have sound recordings that are there on the Inner Traditions website, which I've been really enjoying myself as well. So it's a wonderful thing to play with. And I am going to use the word play. It's a wonderful thing to play with, because we are discovering ourselves and our own healing potential. So Andi, Jonathan, thank you for today and for your fabulous work.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much for having us. We have thoroughly enjoyed this. It has been very playful and fun.
Well, we need that. We need play.
We do.
We do. And I think I look forward to your monthly consciousness hums. I'm going to be learning more about those and sharing that with my viewers as well, putting a link into the description box for that. And maybe let's see what we can do about Ohio, hey?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see what we can do about this planet. Hey, we heal the planet.
We heal ourselves.
We heal
that. Absolutely. But we've got to start somewhere.
We have a great little thing. We heal ourselves.
We heal the planet.
We heal the planet.
We heal ourselves.
So we're all connected.
We are one.
Yes.
So thank you very much for your time again today. And thank you all for watching. Do remember to check out my own website to find out more about my work. And next time, we're going to be talking about plant spirits. Until then, goodbye.